Thanks. I wanted to go back a few years and actually hear more about your Wall Street experience that led you to write Liar's Poker. It's a book that I loved, and I'd love to get the backstory to it and how you met these characters and kind of got into their world.
Well, I worked. It's obviously I worked. I worked with them. This is extending my my biography here. But all right, art history. Didn't have a job. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I went and did a master. I decided. I was kind of infuriated when I got out of college and I realized that everybody didn't want to hire me. And I didn't really see anything I actually wanted to do. But I decided that the world was a conspiracy of people who understood kind of economic stuff and the language and the speak. And that was mostly bullshit, but I wasn't going to be buffaloed by this. So I was going to go get a master's in economics so no one could talk to me that way anymore. And so I went and got my master's in economics at the London School of Economics. They had a special program for people like me. They in a lot of ways, it was for special people. We came to school on a little bus, anyway, so I got hired flukishly out of that program to work at Salomon Brothers. And by this time I had my little literary career up and running. And it presented a problem, actually, because I wanted to keep writing. But I didn't see I could make a living at it. At this point, I hadn't written the 6 pieces in the New Republic. I wasn't getting book offers yet, but I was able to publish in several magazines, and so I kept writing while I was there. And I had for the first year there, I go home at night and write nights, write weekends, and I do it under my own name. And a crisis ensued because. About a year into the job, I wrote an op-ed on the Wall Street Journal's op-ed page, and it was about half the page. It was huge, and I could see why they played it big. I was a little naive about this, but I wrote a piece basically saying investment bankers are grotesquely overpaid, and at the bottom it said Michael Lewis is an associate with Salomon Brothers in London. And I got to work, and I was like, great, I'm in the Wall Street Journal now. This hit the New York office like a train, right? And the next day, after it had been published, I showed up at my desk in London, and the head of all of Salomon Brothers International was waiting for me. And he said, and he had kind of circles under his eyes. He said, "We've been on this meeting with the board of directors about your piece for the last hour, and John Goodfriend, the head of Salomon Brothers, is furious. And the PR guy, and the great was that they syndicated it, so it kept coming out, Indonesia and different languages. It was all over the place, and every little paper in America carried it. Michael Lewis is an associate of Salomon Brothers, and it was a public relations disaster. Yeah. And I hadn't even thought about it. And so he says, but by this time, I was making a lot of money for Salomon Brothers. I lucked into this customer who basically said, "I'll only do business with you," and he quickly became the second biggest customer of all of Salomon Brothers, the whole company. And he would refuse to speak to anybody but me. And this is because he basically hated investment bankers, and he was kind of playing a joke. I'm going to pick this little pipsqueak, and I'm going to make him a king, kind of thing. And so I just knew they weren't going to fire me. They just fired me if they were going to fire me, but I knew it was going to be a complicated conversation. And so he says, "Michael, this really tears me up. This is really awful. We can't let this happen again. What can we do?" And I said, "Well, I'm not going to stop writing. I'll quit before I start writing." And he said, "What? You don't have to stop writing." He said, "But what if you used a different name?" And I said, "Well, that's all right. I'll use a different name." And in fact, the first book contract I got was offered to Diana Bleecker, and that's my mother's maiden name, and I wrote under Diana Bleecker. And I wrote the most hostile things about investment bankers under Diana Bleecker. And they would circulate on the trading floor around me in London. "Do you see this piece?" And I'd be watching it, and nobody would connect it because and the idea was that they were in such a chauvinistic environment, no one would imagine that a woman was a man. Right. And so, but it became clear that Diana Bleecker could make a real living. And so when that became clear, actually, it was interesting. The inciting incident when I left when I knew I was basically going to hand in my resignation. Chevy Chase, the actor Chevy Chase, his father. His name is Ned Chase, and he was an editor at Simon & Schuster. Mm-hmm. And he found out Diana Bleecker was me. Somehow got my phone number in London, and he's the one who first called and said, "You got to write a book." And I said, really, a book? And the such is, I mean, you were all about the age I was when I did this. I was 27 when I quit and wrote the book, or 26. When I left, the last paycheck was about $250,000, and it was pretty clear it would have been double or even triple the next year. It was just, money was big. My contract from W.W. Norton was $40,000, and I thought, this is incredibly great. I was leaving it. This is just fantastic. And there's no way on earth I could do that now. But it was so easy to do because I was so clear in my head that this is what I should be doing. But it was, I didn't pause out the door. I mean, I was out the door in a flash, even though the money was like that.
And that contract was for Liar's Poker.
That was Liar's Poker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Ended up making much more money from Liar's Poker than I ever would from Solomon. But anyway, that's ruins the story.